Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a different video, and if you're here for my personal development content, which I know most of you are, then you don't need to watch this video, alright? This video is for my Christian viewers, because I know I only have like 2 email subscribers at the moment, and I want to get this message out there, okay? Um, I'm basically going to be reading a blog post that I wrote on my website, Success Unlocked. You will have to subscribe to my email list to get that. If you guys haven't done it already, you should. What I basically do is I send you an email whenever I write out one of these, and I send you out an email whenever I post a video, just with a little bit of context to the video. That's all that it is. I won't use it for marketing or anything like that. Even if I do, then you don't have to buy anything I promote. Um, but yeah, this article is titled "How the Providence of God Proves that God Created the Heavens Before the Earth," as in the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, everything before He created the Earth. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jack Robertson from Success Unlocked, where I help you figure out what you want to do and create a roadmap there through personal development. If you're interested in that, then do consider subscribing. Let's just get straight into this. Welcome to Success Unlocked, where I help you find your success. So, a lot of Christians believe that on day 4 of creation, God created the rest of the universe. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. That was Genesis 1 verse 16 from the ESV. As we shall see, though, this interpretation is greatly mistaken, and in its purest form may even be sinful. Allow me to explain. Hebrew translations. The first thing to note is that the Hebrew translations don't seem to support the interpretation that God created the heavenly bodies on day 4, as astrophysicist Hugh Ross explains in his book Navigating Genesis, chapter 5, page 61 to 62. The Hebrew verb asa, translated made, appears in an appropriate form for past action. There are no verb tenses in Hebrew to parallel verb tenses in English. Rather, there are 3 verb tenses that are used to denote action already completed, action not yet completed, and commands. God set them in the expanse of the sky to give light onto the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. The echo of wording from day 1, verse 3 to 5, is significant. It suggests both when and why God created the heavenly lights. The mention of She'em Wares, heavens and earth, in Genesis 1 verse 1 places the existence of the sun and stars before the first creation day. So at that moment, at the verse that states, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," that's taking place before the first creation day, because obviously while He's creating the heavens and the earth. Thus, the sun was already in place to fulfill its role during the first creation day. Here, Dr. Ross is very clearly stating his interpretation of the Hebrew text. In my analysis, if the Hebrew is hinting towards the heavens creation prior to day 1, then it should be taken as gospel. Literally. I don't think there's much more to analyze. Clearly, the Hebrew interpretation is true. God made the heavens prior to day 1. I could end the video here and send you on your way, and if you're convinced already, then that's what I'll do. Off you go then. Thanks for watching. Bye. So, now that all those people are gone, let's continue by examining not the Hebrew text, but the English. The point of view of Creation Week. If one is to believe that God created the heavenly bodies on day 4, they will inevitably ignore Genesis 1 verse 2. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. This is very clearly stating the point of view here is that of an observer on the surface of planet Earth, not in the skies above. Look at the verse again with this in mind. And God made the two lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. See? It changes the interpretation entirely. I know this because it states that God created the heavenly bodies above the earth. This is not possible if God's Spirit is hovering over Earth's surface because he is on the ground. If he is on the ground, the only way he could let them be visible is by creating them before the earth and changing the way the sky looks so that we can see them from the ground. This, however, is a minor point, but it's worth considering, as to ignore a verse in God's Word is to not take it consistently. And let's be real, it's probably sinful. Proof the atmosphere changed. Photosynthesis is a very clever process that I don't understand fully, let alone comprehend. On day 3, God created plant life. Plants inhale carbon dioxide and produce oxygen as a byproduct. Because they have no use for them, they exhale it into the atmosphere. With enough time and oxygen, a thin ozone layer will form in the Earth's atmosphere, along with decreased carbon dioxide levels. This leads to a gradual change in Earth's atmosphere, which allows the light from the sun and the moon and the stars to penetrate the clouds and reach the surface. The reason a carbon dioxide rich atmosphere inhibits light reaching the surface is because carbon dioxide easily reacts with atmospheric water to form carbonic acid clouds. The proof for this is found in the fossil record, which you can look into yourself. I won't do your research for you, but it explains how such a process could happen. This explanation shows what plants created on day 3 would inevitably do to the atmosphere by day 4. The fine-tuning required for this is the amount of plants with the right amount of chloroplasts, which are the green things within a plant cell that allow them to do photosynthesis, the right oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, the right humidity, pressure, and thickness of the atmosphere, the right biodiversity of plant life, on the right shaped and sized land. Natural forces like plate tectonics and volcanic activity also deserve a mention, as they are responsible for recycling carbonic acid raining down from the clouds. Fine-tuning. Plate tectonics and volcanic activity of a planet is dependent on a multitude of factors. These include, but are not limited to, the planet's size, composition, so what it's made of, its age, and placement in a galaxy during formation. Scientists reckon that to get a planet with all the minerals that Earth has, you need a minimum of 9 billion years of the exact right star births and deaths, because the dust in space is what forms stars, and the death of a star shoots the dust out everywhere into space. This is just one This is just one of many examples of fine-tuning needed for our planet to exist. First of all, the solar system. In order for a planet with human life to exist, the solar system must be just right for life. If the sun is too unstable, it will either be too hot or it will be too dim. It will either be too bright or too dim by the time humans roll around. This is because the sun's brightness either increases or decreases with time, and it does it at an exponential rate. and the brightness is directly proportional to the temperature. So if it's too bright, that means it's too hot. If it's too dim, that means it is too cold. So how stable it is will determine how fast the temperature will go down or go up. So that needs to be fine tuned. If there are any different planets, whether that be in size, the total amount, or the distance from the Earth, there will be a gravitational tug of war. Basically, the planets all exert a gravitational force on one another. They're all pulling on each other. If it's not right, then let's say Jupiter was 4 times bigger, the Earth would be pulled out of its orbit. Not entirely, but instead of its orbit being a circle, it would be more oval, like an egg, right? This would also slow down Earth's rotation speed, so it wouldn't rotate 24 hours for a day. It could rotate really, really slowly, which would mean that there would be huge temperature differences between night and day. We're talking maybe hundreds of degrees here. This would make unpredictable seasons and extreme temperature differences as well, as I mentioned. Also, the galaxy and its cluster needs to be fine-tuned. If it isn't, then the necessary dust formation won't be able to happen. If the galaxy is shaped wrong, the right elements won't be found in the region for Earth's formation, and dangerous dust, gas, and rocky bodies, like asteroids or planets, will smash into the Earth. So whether you believe a worldwide flood killed the dinosaurs, which as a side point is impossible because it would require 4 times as much as all the water on Earth today, which would mean there'd be 4 times as much clouds, the Earth would exponentially increase in heat. Or if you rightfully believe they were wiped out by an asteroid, you'll know that asteroids are not exactly that great for life survival on planet Earth. The galaxy's placement within its cluster, supercluster, and megacluster must also be designed, because if it's too close to the middle, it will be within that gravitational tug of war. And again, the dust formation needed for our galaxy needs to be fine-tuned as well, so it needs to be in the right spot. Finally, the universe's density, star count, and expansion rate are the most well fine-tuned of all God's creation. The universe's expansion has two factors influencing it: the mass density and the energy density. The universe's expansion speed accelerates exponentially with time. Empty space has a mysterious energy which causes the universe to expand, and the more empty space there is, the more the speed of its expansion accelerates. Therefore, there must be just the right amount of empty space. The brakes on the acceleration is matter. So everything we can see plus exotic, anti, and dark matter. This is because matter slows down time closer to it, which creates a curve in space-time towards its center of mass. This force is known as gravity, and it acts as the brakes on the universe's expansion. As you can see, both the amount of matter and empty space must be exquisitely fine-tuned so the universe's expansion acceleration isn't too much or too little. Because the matter count and its spacing needs to be fine-tuned, you need the right amount of stars too, which, for those of you who are wondering, in the observable universe, which is the universe we can see, there's about 50 billion trillion stars. 10 to the 22nd power 1 with 22 zeros. It's about 1 with 40 zeros behind it, 10 to the 40th power for the entire universe. God has designed the universe so life can exist. You and I are proof. An atheist could easily say, what a coincidence, we hit the jackpot, or it's just chance. But that's not a very likely explanation for all this. First of all, the inflationary Big Bang model, which is not the model which talks about an explosion, it talks about a controlled inflation or stretching of space, requires the universe to be already created, fine-tuned, which requires a creator. And second, the chances of all these things happening on the first try is 1 part in 10 to the 1212th power. That's 1 with 1212 zeros. Because of the fine-tuning we see, one can only conclude that God had to have made the universe prior to the Earth. But we can take this one step further, or should I say prior, back to the cosmic creation event itself. The cosmic creation event. The cosmic creation event, also known as the Big Bang, also proves that God made Earth after the heavens. This is because the CMB, which is short for cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the light given off from the creation event, is smooth in temperature, revealing order and structure. It does fluctuate a tiny bit, but I'm talking like 0.000000001% temperature difference. The slightly hotter parts would grow into megaclusters of galaxies, and the colder parts, the vast distances between them. I think could be the other way around though. The cosmic web is the universe on its largest scale, where these hotter parts and colder parts can be seen as the megaclusters and the space in between. And for your interest, the cosmic web, which is not something we can see, it's something we had to model with computers, is actually structured remarkably similar to the human brain. This kind of structure and smoothness cannot be created by an explosion, because explosions fling things all everywhere out in random directions. Inflations, however, simply increase the distance between parts of the structure. Think of a balloon with a smiley face made out of dots on it, okay? If you pop it, the dots will be scattered randomly on the floor, and it will be impossible to tell what the picture was. Blow it up, however, that is, inflate it, and the space between the dots increases whilst the picture remains. This shows that the universe has been designed from the very start, and to ignore this fact would be to ignore that God made the universe in the first place. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's your biblical proof. If one does not believe God designed the universe for his purposes, they must ignore all the evidence for inflationary theory of the modern Big Bang. If you don't believe the Big Bang is biblical, check out my video, The Bible Talks About the Big Bang. Providence. All this fine-tuning requires something about God's character known as his providence. John Piper defines the providence of God as God's preserving and governing of all his creations, ordering them and all their actions for his glory. This means everything in creation serves his glory and his plan. Remember that God created the universe to train us for the new creation, and to allow those of us which want to be with God to choose to be with him in salvation. John reads a verse on God's providence over nature which backs up my point. In him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will, which is Ephesians 1 verse 11 ESV. As a side point, if you guys know anything about quantum physics and the wave function collapse, I think this could be hinting towards like determinism, like the fact that quantum systems collapse into particles because they've been predetermined right from the beginning of time. But that's just a thing I wanted to point out there. He noted how the works of him who works isn't needed to make the point. In him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of all things, according to the counsel of his will. That's strong, that works. But including of him who works states that God is the one in control here. We have been predetermined by God in accordance to his plan of him who makes everything in creation to abide by that plan. It is an obvious point in the favor of God's preparation for the universe, for human life on earth. If God planned everything and keeps everything in accordance to set plan, then he cannot fling things out randomly. God must have fine-tuned the universe in preparation for man's arrival, because that was the purpose he made the universe for. Our new bodies reflect the heavenly bodies. Whilst we're on the topic of God's plan, one of the most recognizable parts of that plan is that when we die, we go to heaven. To get into heaven, we need new bodies. And 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1 gives us some context on this. When people read about our new heavenly bodies, they often rightly so recognize that an eternal body, again 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1, means that this new body will be suited to life in heaven, just as all the bodies on earth and in the cosmos have been suited to their roles. If this is true, then God has fine-tuned the universe for earth, and it has been designed to suit its environment, which would suggest the environment was already there to begin with. This interpretation paints heaven before the earth picture, because it says that God created an environment and fine-tuned each part of creation to live in its own habitat. This can be seen everywhere. For proof, look at the scientific evidence provided that the Earth's atmosphere has changed from translucent to transparent. Conclusion. So, to sum it all up, Genesis 1's point of view, the Hebrew translated words for create and made, God's providence, the evidence for Earth's atmosphere changing, the fine-tuning argument, and the Big Bang all prove that the common interpretation of Genesis 1 verse 16, that God created the heavenly bodies on day 4, is incorrect. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God said that through Moses, because Moses was the writer of Genesis. He created the stars, the planets, the moons, nebulae, black holes, and galaxies before he created the earth, with the exception of the moon, which was created on day 1. This is another example of how Moses amazingly got the miraculous changes to Earth over its 4.6 billion year history spot on true, spot on accurate, without any evidence to support himself at the time. God alone told him these things, proving that Christianity is true. Thanks for reading with me and watching. If you have any points you'd like to make, do leave them in the comments below. I'll try and answer as many of you as I can. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, drop me a like and drop me a comment. Tell me what you enjoyed about it. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching as always, and God bless you all. Goodbye.